global events. Our world, stories that speak for themselves, this weekend on the BBC News Channel.
Good afternoon. The Queen has been attending church near Sandringham this morning after the agreement with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that they'll step down from royal duties. The Queen has said she supports Prince Harry and Meghan's decision to lead a more independent life away from what she called the intense scrutiny that they faced. Well, under the agreement, their HRH titles will be dropped and they'll no longer receive public funding. Here's our royal correspondent, Daniela Relf.
The Queen at church near Sandringham this morning after what must have been a difficult time for her both as monarch and as a grandmother. Just behind her, her son, the Duke of York, whose own stepping back from royal duties has been an added strain for the Queen in recent weeks.
I think families are always a problem, and I think she's dealt with it incredibly well.
I just think, it's a shame.
And it's a shame with the little one as well.
Yeah, for the whole family. It's a shame. William, Charles, everybody.
Yeah.
As long as we're not paying for the lifestyle they're hoping to live, then I don't have a problem with that.
And from the Prime Minister, there was backing for the couple's plans.
So I think the whole country will want to join in wishing them the very best for the future. I said before that I was sure that the royal family has been around a very long time, will find a way forward, and I'm sure it will.
Big decisions have been made in recent days. These royal walkabouts will be no more for Harry and Meghan as their life as working royals ends. Palace officials say the couple now wish to pay back public money spent on their home in Windsor. They will also pay a commercial rent on Frogmore Cottage.
There is a quid pro quo in this relationship between the royal family and the public and the taxpayer, and they were not playing the game. And I think the fact that they've acknowledged that and they are handing back that money makes everything right again.
So Canada will be home for most of the year. Immigration rules mean that Harry, as a British citizen, can stay in Canada for 6 months at a time on a visa. The status of Meghan's application for British citizenship is unclear, especially if most of her time is spent outside of the UK. And details of the couple's new security arrangements will not be made public. For Meghan's estranged father, there was a harsh assessment of the choices his daughter and her husband have made.
Every young girl wanted to become a princess, and she got that. And now she's tossing that away for, it looks like she's tossing it away for money. But I think both of them are turning into lost souls at this point.
The plan for Harry and Meghan now could serve as a blueprint for future generations of royals, if it works. And that will be assessed by senior members of the royal family in a year's time. In the coming weeks, Harry will carry out some final royal engagements. It will feel like a goodbye as Harry and Meghan move to a new country and begin to carve out a new life for themselves beyond the royal family. Daniela Relf, BBC News, Buckingham Palace.
Boris Johnson has joined the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and the presidents of Russia, France and Turkey at a summit in Berlin aimed at bringing peace to Libya. The United Nations wants to halt the flow of foreign weapons and troops into the country, where Libya's internationally recognised government is being challenged by General Khalifa Haftar and his Libyan National Army. Well, our Europe correspondent Jenny Hill is in Berlin for us this afternoon. Jenny, what are the chances of an agreement?
Well, you know, the situation in Libya is so volatile, so complicated that officials here in Berlin consider it an achievement simply to have got all the key players together in the city. Security, as you can imagine, is extremely tight. In the city now, we have the man that the UN recognises as Libya's Prime Minister, but also General Haftar, the warlord who's challenging him from the east of the country. But really crucial to these talks are foreign powers like Russia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, who've been backing the rival faction, sending them money, troops and weapons. Today's summit aims to stop foreign involvement and to create, at some point, a lasting ceasefire. And it has to be said that expectations are very low because the situation is so difficult. But, you know, it's becoming a very pressing concern in capitals like Berlin because it's feared here that if the situation in Libya worsens, then Europe could experience a rise in the number of people coming in to try and seek asylum here. It is a concern too, they say, that the situation could exacerbate Islamist terrorism in northern Africa. And that's why one official said to me, if they can at the very least today freeze the current situation, that in itself would be cause for celebration.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed. Jenny Hill there for us in Berlin. People suspected of stalking in England and Wales could be ordered to stop contacting or approaching their alleged victims while they're being investigated. From tomorrow, investigating officers will be able to apply to magistrates for a stalking protection order, even before someone is charged with any offence. Anyone breaching that order could face up to 5 years in prison. Charlotte Gallagher has this report.
The global superstar Rihanna and the Hollywood actors John Cusack and Sandra Bullock, just some of the high-profile victims of stalking. This kind of harassment usually only makes the headlines when celebrities are involved, but it's frighteningly common. In England and Wales, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 10 men will experience stalking at some point in their life.
In 2014, I was almost murdered by an ex-partner. I'd ended the relationship and he was starting to stalk me. So I was being harassed, stalked. He was contacting me on all sorts of platforms. And this was hundreds of times a day.
Tomorrow, police gain new powers to tackle stalking. They'll be able to apply for court orders which will ban suspects from contacting or approaching their alleged victims while officers are investigating. If suspects breach the order, they could be jailed for up to 5 years.
It's a good step, and the fact that they hold a criminal sentence if they're breached is good.
The Minister for Women visiting a helpline for stalking victims.
What's your experience today?
Staff here are on the front line of the problem.
These are really groundbreaking orders that the police will be able to apply for to protect victims of stalking, but also to make sure that the perpetrators are getting the treatment programmes and so on that they need to break their cycle of abuse and stalking.
It's hoped these new powers will prevent cases like Alice Ruggles. She was murdered by an ex-boyfriend who'd been stalking her. Alice's family say these court orders could have made a critical difference. Charlotte Gallagher, BBC News.
The areas of Australia worst hit by bushfires are now at risk of flash flooding and power cuts because of rainstorms. In the state of Victoria, many of the fires have been put out by the storms, which have also seen property damaged by giant hailstones, as John McManus reports.
Australians have been praying for rain, but they weren't expecting this deluge from the heavens. A downpour of hailstones in Melbourne in the middle of the Australian summer. After months of high temperatures which fueled hundreds of bushfires, the weather has turned dramatically. The country's Bureau of Meteorology has issued storm warnings for the state of Victoria, but there's no way to predict hailstones of this size. This birthday party abandoned because of the sudden onslaught as people huddled together for shelter. The hail was so intense it was able to shatter corrugated roofs. And this is a cricket pitch, play not surprisingly abandoned.
Such a freak storm. I was watching television. I went into the bedroom and I just looked out the window and the gum tree, which is 2 stories high, just disappeared.
There were some lucky escapes.
So Mum and Dad were on their way back from lunch with relatives today, and they've just come through this area and a storm's just gone whack, and a tree fell down on the front of their car.
But there could be more to come in the next 24 hours. John McManus, BBC News.
Now, in cricket, South Africa are struggling to stop England taking a 2-1 series lead on the 4th day of the 3rd Test in Port Elizabeth. A few moments ago, South Africa were 36 for 2, still trailing England by 254 runs. Well, England had a dream start. They took 4 wickets for just 1 run. Fast bowler Stuart Broad got 3 in quick succession, leaving South Africa 290 runs adrift of England's first innings total of 499. Well, you can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. The next news here on BBC One is at 20 to 6. Goodbye for now. Well, you're watching the BBC News channel with me, Ben Brown, and the time is 1:10. Let's take you back to our top story now. And from the spring, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will start new lives away from royal duties and without public funds. That's after reaching an agreement with Buckingham Palace. The Queen has described it as a constructive and supportive way forward. I've been talking to the royal journalist Victoria Murphy.
I think it's interesting, some people suggesting Harry and Meghan have got what they wanted, but actually I think we know that they didn't get what they want because they posted what they wanted on their website 10 days ago, which was very different to the solution that we have today. And it's clear that over the course of these negotiations, they have had to give on certain things. And, you know, when
So what didn't they get that they did want then?
Well, they didn't get the opportunity